Let's talk to Steven in Florida. Steven, a lot of Florida people tonight. I appreciate Florida coming out. I'm excited for the surprise of the election night when Florida goes blue, because you all had the audacity to put a 6-week abortion ban in and then not think about the fact that they'd be able to put a constitutional amendment on the ballot. I'm not positive it'll happen, but that's my what's the word, upset scenario that I feel pretty okay about. I think women are smart and they'll do it. Anyway, Steven, how are you?
Hey, Jimmy Snow, I heard you had a podcast.
Yeah, Jimmy Snow has a podcast available where podcasts are. So you're a Trump supporter, huh?
No, sir, I'm not. I was going to tell you the abortion ban is in Florida. It's Amendment 4.
Yeah.
I plan to vote for women to make their own choices with their own bodies.
Mm-hmm.
Sir, Jimmy, I want to say, first of all, before I start, I love how you try to connect with everybody.
Thanks, man.
I love that. You've taught me a lot as an atheist, along with Matt. I know you kept getting called Matt. You're not Matt. You guys have taught me a whole lot, and I actually called the show to get your advice because I do respect you that much.
Tight. Lay it on me.
So, sir, I've never voted, and I was more drawn to Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Sure.
And I feel like, sir, he got a bad rep. When I look at the Democratic convention, my only problem with it is the last time they had a convention, and I'm not too familiar with all the names, so I might mispronounce it too. Kamala, you got Harris.
It. Yep.
She was the first person to drop out of the Democratic Party when they had a convention. She didn't have any support in her own party, and so my only problem with that is that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. would have challenged her had the states been able to vote on a candidate.
Yeah. So Stephen, I hear you. That he probably would have been the second most popular choice, potentially. Could be. Yes, however, probably not. And let me explain to you why, Stephen, and maybe this will put your mind at ease. First of all, in the convention, because it was non-contested originally, the delegates were already chosen. And because Biden had won it, they were all Biden delegates. So you aren't going to flip Biden delegates to RFK in enough numbers. Maybe you get a few, but in enough numbers to switch it. Second, why did they go with Harris instead of going for an open convention when she wasn't that popular the first time around? Well, two things. One, she now is the most qualified person to be the next president. 4 years of vice presidential experience is actually something, as shown by the fact that the person we elected last time was the one who was the 8-year vice president. That is actually important. But second, there was already hundreds of millions of dollars of fundraising and campaign money, and that do they operate under an LLC or corporate? When they did their I can't remember what it's called, like order of organization or whatever it's called. It's under both of their names, Biden and Harris, which meant to campaign and keep a hold of that money, Harris is the de facto person who has to be on the ticket. Otherwise, all that money, how they would have to handle it, I don't know, but they wouldn't have the option to use it. And then additionally, everyone knows that is the case. Like if Donald Trump falls out tomorrow, something happens to him, decides he is tired of people trying to shoot at him, he doesn't want to do it, clearly J.D. Vance is going to be the nominee, right? When you would nominate a vice president, that is the second in command. That is the person who's going to do it. And so Biden was the one who won the primary. And as far as who a natural shift would be to, it would have been to Harris. RFK, even in a contested convention, would not have won. The delegates definitely would have swapped, but as a contested convention where it wasn't just Harris versus RFK, but Harris versus, let's say, Newsom versus Buttigieg versus whoever else you want to throw in there who are popular Democratic candidates and would have been part of that process, he wouldn't have beaten any of them. Now, the good news is, for our discussion, RFK Jr. is out of the race. There's no option to bring him back. I think RFK Jr. would have been a terrible choice, but why waste time on arguing on RFK Jr. when you and I know that this November, barring the death of a candidate, which hopefully will not happen, barring the death of a candidate, Donald Trump or Kamala Harris is going to win. So can we just foundationally start there and talk about whatever questions you have and whatever concerns you have while making your decision on who to vote for?
Absolutely, sir. And I'll also add to that by saying I don't have my mind made, and I am a true atheist, so I'm open to facts and discussion and willing to change my mind. So it's not something that I have any ground to stand on.
Cool.
Again, I just respect you so much and
I appreciate
know
it.
how intelligent that you guys are.
I got you. Let's stop edging.
Advice.
No more edging. Let's get to it. You know what I mean? Let's just get into it, Stephen. I don't need the compliments. It does nothing for me. If anything, it makes me like you less. So let's just go for the policies.
Okay, so my question then would be like in Wisconsin, they say that they can't change the ballot for to take Robert F. Kennedy Jr. off the ballot, but they're changing the ballot and replacing Joe Biden's name with Kamala Harris's name.
Kamala.
Do you think that's a double standard, or do you like how does that work out?
Wisconsin and every other state starts printing their ballots after the convention because the convention is considered the moment of commitment. He had filed, and they had no convention process in place. That filing was done for RFK after all of that. So ballots are beginning to be printed, but more than that, he's past the commitment dates. So, Stephen, it's not a double standard because why would Wisconsin be holding that Biden's going on the ballot when Biden hadn't been officially nominated? Biden was never nominated. Biden was never actually put on the ballots or declared the person who he put on the ballots. All he did was win the primary votes. But just like every other dumb democratic system we have in this country, that doesn't automatically get it for you. Not to say in that scenario, it's good. It's good that he was able to drop out before the convention because he chose to drop out. No, not at all a double standard. But why are we still on RFK Jr. when RFK Jr. has already endorsed a candidate also? So it doesn't matter.
Well,
he has said, don't vote for me. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, at that point, it's not really about RFK Jr. as much as it is like they obviously and I don't support any candidate. Again, I was right in the fence.
Stephen, are you over 35 years old?
Yes, sir.
Great. You're on the ballot too then, Stephen. His name will actually be up there. And so anybody who desperately wants to vote for RFK Jr., even in every state that he's been taken off, they can write in RFK. They can write in your name, Stephen. They actually can't write in mine because I won't be 35 until March 5th of next year. I can't be president yet. I'm very sorry, everybody. You'll have to wait for that writing campaign for 2028. However, it doesn't matter, Stephen. What we're talking about here is not RFK Jr. There's definitely not a double standard in Wisconsin. The nomination happened and the commitment happened and he passed the dates. And that's just how it is. They might have tried to make a special exception, but sitting there, why would they? If they're already printing, if the process is already going, if it actually throws a fucking grenade in the toilet, why would they go, why do we have to take his name off? His supporters will have heard his endorsement and they could have written him in anyway. So it's not even, taking it off is only symbolic. It's not important to take it off.
I mean, yeah, I feel like, picking between the lesser of two evils is still choosing evil.
Yep. Correct. Correct, Stephen. And you should still do it.
Right. So that's where I like, again,
Stephen, if the options were Hitler or Donald Trump, I'd vote for Donald Trump. There is going to be an amount of harm that both presidencies cause. And that's why we call it lesser of two evils. And there are people on this channel who don't agree with the sentiment, but I agree. Lesser of two evils. But as I've already mentioned, one of them's a bowl of shit and one of them's all the shit that's ever been shat. You've got a spoon. You got to eat one. You will eat one. Come November and then January, you will eat one of them.
I mean, there's always a third option. If it's like between eating a bowl of shit or eating a bucket of shit, the third option would be what your life is taken, and you could choose that. There's always a third option.
There isn't always a third option,
one or two.
Stephen, you can leave the country. If that's your,
but that's what
you can move.
That's what I was saying, though. So some people see the glass half full. Some people see the glass half empty.
They
but
aren't
in
halves.
reality. In reality, the glass is refillable. So there's always a third option.
Stephen, Stephen, the majority of people in this country will live under, not just majority, practically 100%, except for those who die and are moving away anyway, are going to live under those people. So even if you can escape, Stephen, even if you can move to another country, or let's say you aren't alive anymore by whatever the reason is, personal choice, or something happens to you, it's still good, it's still virtuous to vote in the better interest of the people who are remaining.
Yes, and I do, sir. Locally, like I said, Amendment 4 is going to be on the ballot, and I'm voting for women to make their own decisions.
Wait, Stephen, hang on. Don't go past that. Let's stop there. Is it important for all women to make their own decisions, or only women in Florida?
I think all women.
Great. Which candidate will restore the Roe v. Wade decision as law of the land going through Congress as law of the land? Which one of the candidates will do that, and which one will not?
Well, sir, I mean, I know what you're trying to get me to say, but that's an unfair question because we don't really know. If she's the vice president now,
we absolutely know her policy on it.
If she's the vice president now, we could ask why she hasn't done it then.
Okay, great. Would you like the answer, Stephen? Would you like the answer?
Yes, sir.
Sure.
Yes,
if Kamala Harris wins in November, that likely comes with a majority Congress, House, and Senate. Where do they have the majority right now, Stephen?
On the Republican side.
In the House, they have the Republican side. Mike Johnson is the reason why she doesn't do it right now. She can't.
Yeah, and I'm against Republicans for sure. I used this with the Ten Commandments when they were trying to be put in public schools.
Let's make it easier, Stephen. Stephen, we don't need to go down a different road. Let's make it easier. After November, which candidate is there at least a possibility of restoring Roe v. Wade in the country? Which one is it at least possible with, even if you don't know for sure the House will flip and will be able to? Which one?
Yes, sir. That would be more on the left side.
No, not more, entirely. In fact, what we know of Donald Trump is that he is proud of overturning Roe v. Wade, that most of the opposition where he's trying to act like, well, they wanted it the states, and even though he has said he's going to vote against the amendment in Florida, even though he thinks the 6-week ban is too cruel. He is voting to keep the 6-week ban, Stephen. And we also know that when it comes time that he has become the president and Project 2025 stuff starts coming across his desk and his ability to maintain being the beloved character of the Republicans comes up, he's going to do exactly what he did when it came time to pick the Supreme Court nominees. Do you know who put together the lists of Supreme Court nominees that then he chose from to get Gorsuch, Coney Barrett, and Kavanaugh on? Do you know who made that list?
No, sir.
The Heritage Foundation. Who made Project 2025?
I would imagine the same.
The Heritage Foundation. Stephen, do you want the Heritage Foundation to be president again? Do you know what they are?
I don't want Republicans in power at all. That's what I don't agree with most of their stuff.
So if you don't want them to be in power, and I'm glad you used that word, the way to keep them out of power is to vote for their opposition. Yes, their opposition is, in my opinion, also a lesser evil, but it prevents their greater evil in a specific value that you yourself said you're going to go out and vote this time around. And I'm glad that you're doing it, Stephen, but these are the options. And the women in your life and around this country are going to be affected by that decision, even if you escape it. The country does not have a third option, even if you do.
Yes, sir.
You feel me?
Yes, sir. I do.
Any other questions or thoughts or opposition you'd like to present, or are you now happily going to vote for? By the way, Stephen, if I can appeal to you in this way, if you really think that they're the same or one's barely better or lesser two evils thing, just think about how fucking funny it would be if Florida turns blue. And keep in mind, Stephen, Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis together killed 1 million people with their shitty COVID policies. So vote
So
against
they
Trump
did
for
worse.
that.
They did worse than that. I moved here from Colorado, and I'm failing my drug test with medical marijuana. We have to see a doctor in the state of Florida to
Wild.
receive medical marijuana. And companies that I've already worked for in Colorado that I was in good standing with, I was eligible to be hired all the way up until the drug testing process. And then they said I failed my urinalysis for THC. And when I presented my medical marijuana card, they said that there was no laws in Florida to protect me, that I still failed my drug test.
Yes, that is true,
there.
actually, Stephen. I was actually aware of that there are places where you still, just because it is legal there, actually, even in Colorado, some state employees are faced with that, unfortunately, because of the federal ban on it. But no, Stephen, I feel you. But real quick, did you say that they've done worse than that or more than that? Because I thought you said worse, and I was going to say
worse.
maybe.
Yeah,
okay, Stephen, I got to tell you, I think 1 million dead people is actually worse than not being able to work where they drug test. But that's just me, Stephen. That's just me.
Well, yeah, I'm not comparing it to anybody's death. If one person dies, that's tragic.
I'm just teasing you.
I mean, I think all life is sacred, and I value all life. I was just saying, like,
well, Stephen, that's not true. You don't value all life.
The Republicans are.
Maybe conscious human life, sure, but all life, Stephen? You got bacteria dying by the millions inside you right now. You're not thinking about them. Those poor lactobacillus assholes. Anyway.
I mean, kind of. But if we find bacteria on Mars, everybody says, "Hey, we found life," and and then Republicans don't even consider embryos even life. So I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, life in another planet starts with life.
Stephen, I'm very confused by what you just said. You said Republicans don't consider embryos alive. Are you making a joke? Because the Republicans are the ones who consider embryos and fetuses and shit alive. They're the ones who want to end IVF. They're the ones who want to end abortion. So I'm very confused.
Well, I mean. Well, I don't know. Like I said, I don't really pay attention to even the parties. Like I don't even have cable to watch the news. Like I watch you guys on YouTube,
I'm very
and I
confused,
get most of my news from YouTube.
All right, let me make it clear then. Fetuses are alive. They do not have a right to live at the cost of another person's body. Period. They do not have the right to violate the autonomy of another person's body. They do not experience, for much of the time that they are in the womb, the consciousness that we consider the even the potential for consciousness. Obviously, if they continue to develop, but in their current form, the line by which we are totally fine with letting people who have been alive 50 years and then they go into a certain type of coma and then they become brain dead. They aren't. But those people are alive too. They're just brain dead. They're alive. So that's the difference. That is why abortion and whether or not the thing is alive or not. Guess what, Stephen? Sperm are alive. Eggs are alive. And with sperm being alive, if all life is equal in the grand scheme of things, I think that, Stephen, maybe some socks have seen some genocides in your life. I don't know. Certainly in mine.
Yeah.
It's mostly a joke, bud. All right. Anything else before I let you go, Stephen?
No, sir. Thank you for taking my call, and I look forward to hearing your podcast.
Thanks, Dan. Vote Harris. We'll see you.
Yes, sir.
I didn't mind that call so much. It was confusing. Bit of a roller coaster for me in places, but it's fine. It was a good call. Good call. Good call. Hey, what's up? I'm glad you enjoyed that clip of people talking to each other. I'm Jimmy, and this is Eric. And well, we'd really love it if you would support us. Where can they support us, Eric? Where would they do that?
I don't know, Jimmy, because I don't have the notes on me right now.
This is too long. The outros have to be short.
Patreon.
Patreon.com/call the line.